3 p.m., and we are joining to talk about some journaling. Hope everybody's having a good Thursday so far. There we go. Perfect. Yum. We're going to give people just about another minute and a half to join us. Got about 3 of us gathered so far. Big numbers today. It's about the quality, right? I am curious what this incense is going to smell like. Shortly. Set that right there. Set that here. Give that a scotch. All right, friends, welcome. I wonder if I can share this with myself right here real quick. There's a specific prompt that I came across, which is really intended to be like a morning reflection with C.S. Lewis. So I took a picture of it because I want to share it with you guys. There it is. That is large and in charge right in front. Okay, so I'll turn that off for right now. But in a couple of minutes, I want to sit down and kind of talk about that. Because we've been talking about journaling and using journaling to kind of dive in a little bit more. And we were talking about forgiveness this week, and that's kind of how we started things off. Because it's about really recognizing those places in our lives that kind of are stopping blocks. They're speed bumps of sorts in the spiritual life. They kind of arise in a way that prevents us from really going at something. It's almost like a distraction of sorts or an impediment of sorts. And so one of the early March entries for a year with C.S. Lewis was this idea of the impulse for vengeance. Revenge loses sight of the end in the means, but its end is not wholly bad. It wants the evil of the bad man to be to him what it is to everyone else. This is proved by the fact that the avenger wants the guilty party not merely to suffer, but to suffer at his hands, and to know it and to know why. Hence the impulse to taunt the guilty man with his crime at the moment of taking vengeance. Hence, too, such natural expressions as, I wonder how he'd like it if the same thing were done to him, or I'll teach him. For the same reason, when we are going to abuse a man in words, we say we are going to let him know what we think of him. And so it's kind of one of those things where, hey, look, you got your afternoon notification. It's one of those things where we kind of have to acknowledge in self, like a lot of the motivations that we have, even when it's like anger or frustration or vengeance, what's really at play? What's going on within us? What is it that seems to be that driving force or that catalyst that's moving me forward? And if it's not seeking really restoration or healing or any of those other things, we're adopting a role in our life that is above our pay grade. We are infringing upon the role of God, and it really is a distrust of God's role in our life. I said that the other day, and someone decided that they wanted to have a very long conversation saying, I do not distrust God because I want revenge. And I'm like, really? I was like, well, let's talk about it. And in the end, they're like, you're right. I'm like, I know I'm right. I mean, nowhere in the divine life, nowhere within the teachings of Christ does he share with us that we are called to be anything other than bestowers of peace and of love. When he sends us forth out into the world on that great commission, 2 by 2, essentially, you don't need any of the stuff. You don't need anything else. It's about going forth and bestowing love and mercy. And so you kind of can go back to that original point anytime you're struggling with something and you go, well, what's the motivating force? Who's commanding me to go forth to do this? And why? And that's such a helpful, it's a helpful tool in that pursuit of trying to not be so distracted by all those things that tear us out of the here and now. How many of you have gotten in a fight with someone and an argument, a spat of sorts, a sharing of words, and maybe you're a crazy person like me and you kind of want to replay that conversation in your head because you wish you had better responses in the moment. Maybe it caught you off guard. Maybe you were so emotionally charged that you kind of froze in the moment. Occasionally, I remember more frequently as a younger man, not as much anymore because I kind of say and discern what I want to say before it comes out of my mouth. But that desire to have that perfect conversation. Unfortunately, when you do that rehearsal of that perfect conversation stops being a one-act play and ends up becoming a repeated one-act play where you just kind of go back to that same conversation again and again. Why am I talking about that? That's something you can take to a journal. And you really dialogue what you wish you had been able to share in that statement, in that revisited conversation a million times. You can actually get it perfect on paper. Never to be needed to be shared, but recognizing within yourself, what was I trying to convey in that moment? And it's almost a reconciliation with self through that journaling activity of playing out that conversation. What was I really trying to accomplish? Was I trying to share what my will actually is? Was I trying to change a heart? Was I offering assistance? Or was I just ticked off and sharing all kinds of words? It's worthy to go back and to really recognize, even with the most perfect address that we share with someone, when we give someone a piece of our mind or we let them know what we're thinking of them, to recognize, what am I thinking of them? Am I fulfilling that desire to build up the kingdom, or am I really trying to tear somebody down because I have judged them tremendously? I've learned to recognize over a very long period of time, the best response when someone offends you in some way is to ask what's going on. What's going on with you? I mean, if they don't have a long-standing history of being a jerk, what's going on? Let's talk this out. Let's figure out what's happening here. Sometimes it's only in that revisiting a conversation by way of journaling about it that you recognize the pain in someone else's words, what they had said, that started it, that initiated that spat to begin with. And then we pursue a sense of reconciliation through that. But once again, we allow the tool that is a journal to kind of illuminate, almost act as Christ in a way that shares with us ourselves. What am I thinking? What am I doing here? What am I trying to accomplish with this? It's so easy when we're watching a film or a television show. Constantly are we trying to figure out someone's motivation for a line. At least for me, I'm trying to figure out, what would convey them to say that? What are they trying to accomplish? What's their motive in that? And then recognize that in our ability to do that with others, we so too can kind of recognize our own words. What was I trying to accomplish by saying that? What was my will in that? Far too often we're unaware of how much information or even energy or mood we're putting out into the world because we don't really think about it. Maybe the filter is programmed in such a way so that it's kind of intended to put you out in the model you want the world to see you, rather than how you actually feel, rather than how you actually are. We have an entire generation, any generation in front of Xers, so you got your boomers and older, there's a hesitancy to discuss the internal. Some people view it as a sense of a weakness of sorts. I've seen that in the response that the world has kind of had to that interview that took place on Sunday night, the Oprah interview. Was that Sunday or Monday? It was Blur's Day. But that interview that took place. There are people who I heard them voice that that's a family matter and not something that should be discussed by anybody else. But here's the thing, when someone's talking about mental health, which they should be able to talk about, and it takes a profound amount of bravery to be willing to talk about it, it's not a family matter anymore. She tried to keep it within the family, and the family wouldn't address it. So what do you have to do? You go beyond. Why am I saying this? Well, unless we bring to light what's going on, those cycles inside self, unless we're willing to bring those out of self and recognize them for what they are, that cycle will continue again and again and again. Prince Harry was saying, I was blind to the things I didn't know in my family. We're all kind of trapped in our family. We can all be trapped in those cycles of blindedness in the world. Be it, maybe it's our parish culture and we fail to recognize within our parish that we aren't addressing all the issues that are present. Easily happens, but, we have to speak up and be willing to break that silence of it not being discussed. It's only by the willingness to bring light to it that we're able to do it. And so, that's the macro or the micro version that we see kind of taking place elsewhere, and how easily dismissible something is by certain individuals. And then kind of recognize in self, do we do the same thing? Am I unwilling to talk about those problems and recognize them for what they are? And what that helps us do is it helps us kind of disassemble those false sense of self that we've developed for ourselves for a very long time, and we're able to live out the true self, a life of real conversion. A life where that new heart, that new self is truly lived out and shown and displayed to the world in action and in deeds. And so, once again, the journal is the way to really start dialoguing with that true self, that image of Christ that you're hoping to become like. And in that, it begins to illuminate who you are as a human being, so that you can almost have that image, that mirror, so it's before you. So that you can see what you desire to be and what you hopefully are becoming through a sense of authenticity and all that fun and goodness. And so, once again, we'll keep coming back and talking about this, and I'll share different prompts and ideas, and we'll kind of keep going like this. If you found this to be beneficial, make sure you guys hit that like button and let me know that this is helpful. And if there's somebody in your life that could benefit from something like this, make sure you share that with them. And that's how we're able to give each other a hand. Let my gift of gab benefit more than just the few of us, right? And so, friends, I love you all very much. I hope that this weekend is filled with many opportunities for us to bestow the love of God. Make sure you check out Mass tomorrow at noon, Stations of the Cross at 3 o'clock, and I will see you all from the altar online for Mass on Sunday. Peace be with all of y'all. Be good to each other. Take care.